The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by HotMovies.com. Try out some ethical, paid-for porn for free with none of those hidden fees or secret subscriptions when you sign up at HotMovies.com and use the promo code MANWHORE. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all you prep takers, booty shakers, and procrastinating masturbators. This is Billy Procida, and you are listening to the Man Whore Podcast. Mix up the pronunciation a little bit, got to keep you on your toes. What's up, everybody? Welcome back this week. Okay, no politics, I promise. No political rants this week. I could, if I want to, but I'm not. I'm going to try to keep the intro as short as possible because we got a long one this week. I got on Hancy Stokes, formerly of the Woodhull Freedom Foundation. I'll explain the formerly part later. Can't wait to share it with y'all in a bit. But first,
get them hot. Get them dates. Show dates.
Oakland, June 1st. We're doing Man Whore Podcast Family Night. Ooh. Yes, how can we make the Man Whore Podcast mildly more uncomfortable? Let's add a family member. Me and my baby sister Kelly are going to be on stage at the Octopus Literary Salon in Oakland, June 1st, 7:30 p.m. That's going to be a fun show. And then Chicago. Tour de Man Whores coming through the Windy City on June 28th at 9 p.m. at North Bar. I'll tell you more about what that show is going to be in the coming weeks, but for now, at least save the date or buy some tickets. Yes. Tickets are now on sale for the Chicago live show as well. You want to buy tickets for the Oakland or Chicago live shows? Go to manwhorepod.com/tour. And hey, Chicago, I'm going to give you $5 off just because I'm a nice guy. Really for no good reason. If you go to manwhorepod.com/tour for the Chicago show, use promo code Billy, you get $5 off. Look at that, okay? Look at that. But of course, the most important show dates of them all are August 2nd through August 4th. Because, yeah, you know what it is. Man Whore Con, number 3, our third iteration of this awesome sex-positive fan whore weekend in New York fucking City. Man Whore Con, as soon as Man Whore Con ends, I have a good cry. I take 2 days to be like, that was awesome. And then I'm just excited to do it all over again. Hanging out with you people is so much fucking fun. I have to say that. So, and I'm ready to announce another event on the itinerary for Man Whore Con. Yeah, we're bringing it back. It's a fan favorite. We're doing the Fan Whore Bar Crawl. I'm going to take you on a little route of some of my preferred bars in New York City. And that is going to be in addition to the Roast of Billy Procida, the Man Whore Podcast live show, the exclusive after party, your swag bag, and so much more. So shout out again to MotorBunny.com for being the presenting sponsor of Man Whore Con. Of course, you can get $50 off when you use promo code STAYSLUTTY. Again, remember, it's a new promo code. Stay Slutty, MotorBunny.com. Man Whore Con. You're going to want to come. You're going to make a whole bunch of new friends. You can come solo. You come with a bunch of buddies, come with your partner or partners, whatever. It's a blast. Go to manwhorepod.com/weekend and get your weekend pass today. And both of those links for the Oakland and Chicago shows and Man Whore Con, it's all in the show notes, people. So don't stress out. You know what I am stressing out about is I'm back on Instagram. People bug y'all. A lot of you bugged me. You were like, Billy, you're going to get Instagram? I miss your stories. You haven't come on over to follow me yet. So what are you waiting for? Go follow Billy is Procida. I'm back on there. I'm doing the posts. I'm doing the things. I got you. I got the Instagram for you. Go give it a follow. Before we get to this week's guest, Hancy Stokes, and get to a couple orders of business, women can be creepy too. Some of the things that have been said to me by women on the internet, if I were to say them, there'd be there'd be Huffington Post takedown pieces about me. I did someone's podcast. I'm not going to say what it was. And we talked about rimming in it, I guess. And so like her post about it was mentioning rim jobs. I made mention in my post about the podcast that I guess we talk about rim jobs. And then she's like, I'm 100 gonna rim you. I'll chase you around the city till you can't run anymore. Then I'm gonna tongue it. Followed by a bunch of various crying, laughing emoji faces. And I don't think I'm a very offensive comedian, but I've been told I'm a very offensive comedian by people on Twitter. But I've never like joked about going off to sexually assault someone. Even I don't do that. And if you're ever nervous, like, oh my God, is this going to be creepy? Because here's the thing. It's not creepy that she like was coming on to me. It's that she came on to me in the form of suggesting she's going to assault me. Right? That's the creepy part. And if you're not sure if like something you're going to send me or someone is creepy, just all you have to do is think, if a guy that I don't really know or I only met one time said this to me, would I think it's creepy? I'm pretty sure if a dude she only met one time said that to her, she'd be creeped out. And that's really that's the only barometer you need to go by for now. Okay. So like, cause sometimes people will slide in my DMs and say very nice things and they'll be like, I hope I'm not overstepping boundaries. Look, compliments are fine. I'm fine with compliments. I'm fine with you strangers flirting with me in a respectful fashion. Just saying, yeah, bro, person who's never flirted with me, I'm going to rim you. I'm going to chase you till you're tired, and I'm going to stick my tongue in your booty hole. I'm going to ruin that one thing you love so much. I'm going to ruin it. So fucking strange. Man, people on the internet are weird. Myself included, if we're being fair and honest here. Okay. Now we're going to do a little segment with my friend and fellow stand-up comedian Juliana Maher. We record a bonus episode for the Patreon people. Comes out tomorrow. Hey. But right now she's going to help talk to me a little bit about the porns. I'm here right now with fellow stand-up comedian Juliana Maher. Hello.
That was mostly right.
Ah!
No, that's essentially right. That was essentially right.
Well, we just recorded a really fun bonus episode for the Patreon people. And then I learned an interesting thing. You don't watch porn.
I don't. I've never really watched porn. I mean, like, I have seen a little, again, like Andover dorm, boarding school dorm. Did not appeal.
But, well, I thought that was a perfect person to do a porn ad read with. Hotmovies.com, everybody. We're doing a little, going to show some appreciation for our longtime sponsor, Hotmovies.com, the pay-per-minute porn site that lets you affordably and ethically #pay for your porn. And I'm going to see if I can find so Julia, you told me off air that you do like reading on occasion some fan fiction.
Yeah,
some like literotica type.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, well, let's see. Let's hear I want to learn the types of things you like to read that get you off, and see if there's something I can find that might visually get you off.
Okay.
So why don't you describe to me like one type of storyline, scene, element that you enjoy?
Like, I like when people think that their love is like, or not love, but like when they think that their crushes are unrequited and they're not. That's very cute.
Oh, like they get surprised? Like it's like,
yeah, like they think that like they've been, like they think that somebody else doesn't like them, but they actually do. Well, definitely like a really common one for bi girls is when you think a girl is straight and then she's not. Straight girl crushes are a huge thing.
Okay. So let's say girl crush, which is something we talked about in your bonus episode.
Yeah.
And let's see what we get for girl crush. You get Girls Hunting Girls 14, as well as Girls Hunting Girls 9. There's actually quite a series.
14. I thought you said 14. Oh. And I was like, what does that mean?
There's Girl Crush Volume. See, look, they're like holding each other tenderly. They're still wearing their jeans. That's how you know it's softcore, because they're like, we're going to make out and play with nipples.
That doesn't really appeal to me.
No? This one's probably not Girl Crushed, not Girl Crush, but a crushed girl 3. That's definitely
What?
not it. That's more BDSM-y.
Well, I don't mind. That could be fine.
Granny's little girl crush. How's is that
What?
a
Okay, I
storyline?
do not like it when they're old. Sometimes men can be older. That can be attractive. And this is like very sexist and not cool, but not with women. I don't like older women.
If you had to narrow down your like erotic story preferences down to like 2 or 3 words, what are those words? They can describe the aura or the scenes, but what is a must for you?
Tension. Oh, wait. Hang on, there's something.
Okay, good, because so far I just want to say when I type in only the word
Yeah,
tension,
don't do that. It's gonna be all like, yeah.
I just want to let you know the first thing that pops up is Mike John's racial tension. Not the porn for me.
Wow,
So-
okay, that is more surprising. Oh wait, but what is the? There's a fan fiction tag that's funny. That's enemies
Shipping?
enemies to friends to lovers.
Okay, so
I don't know what that would be. I think like video wouldn't really translate, but I tend to like that stuff. It's like where
enemies
people
and
hate each
lovers.
other and then like they end up liking each other.
Oh, I think I found one just like it. Inglorious Bitches.
Sure. Is there Nazi stuff though?
I don't know if they like. I mean, I don't know how this ends, so I don't know if they like end up fucking Hitler.
But
or
yeah,
what.
okay, that's interesting.
But this is an
I do love Inglourious Bastards. Great movie.
great movie,
Great
and now there's a
movie.
porn parody about it. So there you go.
I would
So-
actually probably watch that.
yeah. Well,
Mostly just because I love Inglourious Bastards. I would probably watch that. How
And-
long is the movie?
the movie is an hour and 38 minutes.
I didn't. Okay, so porn movies are like movie length
If
movies.
you can get good movie length, we have a plot kind of movies. Yes.
clever.
But if you want to try Inglorious Bitches, you could get 20 free minutes for free. Nothing. It's a free trial when you sign up at hotmovies.com and use promo code MANWHORE. That 20.
But then I might lose my job because I'm like now I refocus on all the sex.
Yeah, but you'll be focused like by minute because you're buying the minutes. So you're
right.
like,
That's true.
yeah, you're not going to
That
aimlessly
is
jerk
actually,
it for
I get
2
it.
hours.
That's a good business model. I see what they're doing. That's smart.
For sure, for sure. So I would recommend that you see what the tension and enemies lovers dynamic might be like in Inglorious Bitches from Mark Dorcel at hotmovies.com with promo code MANWHORE, everybody. Because like hashtag pay for some of your porn. Well, Juliana, if people want to hear more with me and you, they can listen to your bonus episode on Patreon that is out tomorrow. But if people just want to check you out online, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter at Juliana D Maher. That's JulianaDMaher. And I'm on Instagram, Juliana Maher 12, JulianaMaher 12.
And why don't you say goodbye to everybody?
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
Go watch some porn, Juliana.
No. No. You guys should though. You guys should.
That got so uncomfortable for me though. Watch it. No.
It's okay. I'm very safe.
Check out Juliana on the interwebs, and obviously go sign up at hotmovies.com. Just go try the free trial. Use promo code MANWHORE. Enjoy the free minutes. And if you never want to pay for your porn again, I can't make you, right? Just like that lady can't make me let her rim me. Time for the fan whore appreciation moment. Okay, these are people on the internet who are not creepy and weird, who I appreciate so very much. This is the part of the podcast where I like to give a shout out to a few of the people who are members of my sex positive fan whore community on Patreon. All 3 of these fellas, by the way, are in the Peep Show, our super secret naughty picture sharing kick group. And, I'm not going to say which one, but one of them got a pretty good dick. I'm not going to lie. Shout out to Sean Marks. Shout out to you and your Scottish hottie friend. Good curly hair. I miss having such ample hair like yours. He goes by Mildly Entertaining. I know his real name, but that's not the name he listed. But hey, you know what? You are more than just entertaining in the Peep Show. So I'm glad that you are taking nicely to the community. And I can't wait to meet you at ManwhoreCon. And also, I want to give a big thank you to Zach Brell. I'm pretty sure you have a beard. If I remember correctly, it's an impressive beard. Good job, dude, on the beard front. I don't know much else about you other than that you're awesome, because clearly you have good taste if you're giving me money every month. And you too can become a member of our fan whore community for as little as $2 per month. You get access to sex-positive discussion groups and bonus episodes of the Man Whore Podcast and oh so much more. At the $5 and up level, you know what? You get to see my nudes every once in a while. It's just a thing I like to do. Become a member today at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Did you know there's a free bonus episode with the wonderful, incredible Nina Hartley? Yeah, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You just have to go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. You don't have to put a credit card down. Just go into the posts. Listen to Nina. Listen to us talk about alphas and betas. And that's all. Carefree. Don't got to give me a dime for it. However, I do recommend that you make an account and follow my Patreon so you don't miss the new free monthly bonus episode. You got Nina Hartley is up. You got Nina Hartley is up there right now, but I actually just booked one of my grade school crushes, which is a bonus episode that will be released exclusively for free on Patreon. So head on over there, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Make an account for free, no credit card. Click follow and enjoy the free content, okay? And now for this week's guest, Hancy Stokes. Okay. So I met Hancy at the AVN Awards back in January in Las Vegas. I was crashing on her couch with Alex Andrews from Swap Behind Bars. I'm sure you all remember her from last month. So this recording was originally like over 2.5 hours. Yeah, we had some talks, okay? There was a bit of rambling, lots of whiskey involved, thus the rambling. So this podcast is edited really for your benefit. I do want to contextualize again, not only was there whiskey involved on both sides, but this was my 5th recording of the day. My 5th. This podcast ended in tears. I think if you listen super, super closely while Hancy's doing her plugs, I think you can hear me sniffle because I know that as soon as I turn the mics off, I'm going to break down in tears. And then we had a big hug. It was a very emotional day for me. It was really nice to sit on a couch, pour some whiskey, and chill the fuck out with a new friend. So let's go chat with Hancy Stokes, everybody. She Hancy fancy.
It's more of like a question of like, what do you think you've learned throughout this journey about yourself?
This journey of
the podcast.
Oh, the podcast. I thought you meant like of the last like whatever 36
but
hours.
If that's like a question
out.
that we save for later on, we can do that. But like in terms of like logistics of what we're doing, I think I'm
cool.
pretty good. Yes.
You are going to want to be
closer
this.
Okay,
yeah,
like
it's annoying close. I apologize for it.
It's okay.
But yeah. Well, Hancy Stokes, thanks for chatting with me.
Yeah.
I after all the talking we did, it was like, well, we should have some of this on my.
Can't just have all of these to be private conversations.
Well, like I've had nothing but fun talking to you, and no like gap spots where I'm like, oh, okay, like. No,
we're just like filling this with like, wow, isn't the weather in Las Vegas much colder than you expected it to be?
Any conversation we've had, I felt like we had to cut it off for like a logistical reason.
Yeah.
And so like, and that's like awesome. And
yeah.
That's a good sign. Is like, this is a person I like
Definitely.
talking to.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
it's cool. Also, you're letting me crash on a couch. So
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's
who am I to?
It's Alex's room, but like
I was gonna say, well, because like Alex was like, oh, and we could do the podcast, and it's like, well, it'd be rude to like deny like podcasts of someone letting you crash.
Yeah.
Also, y'all are a great fit because you work for Woodhull Summit.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So I work for the Woodhull Freedom Foundation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we advocate for sexual freedom as a basic human right. So we work at the intersection of sexual freedom and human rights. Our main project currently is working on the Sexual Freedom Summit, which is an annual conference held in Alexandria, Virginia, where we bring people from every corner of the sexual freedom world. So people who have podcasts or lawyers, people in the medical profession, grassroots organizers, all together in conversation with one another, because I think a lot of this conversation happens online, which is amazing. But to get people in the same room and having those conversations and skill shares and movement building is super, super important. And on top of that, we are also leading the lawsuit fighting SESTA and FOSTA in the courts right now, along with Alex, who is our incredible sex work advocate on the lawsuit, and a couple other organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the lawsuit like coming? Is there a particular like angle it's coming from? Because like I always thought like if it got taken down from the courts, it would be from like a free speech angle
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's people don't realize like I think Caitlin Bailey said it succinctly in that like it's a free speech law masked as an anti-trafficking law.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really the basis that we are approaching it is that it chills free speech online. I can't go too much into it just
That's
because
fine.
of like what I've signed for working for my organization, but we are focusing on the First Amendment ramifications of
Okay.
it, and how it harms consensual sex workers. That's one of the main
And Billy's Instagram. We don't forget
Well,
the
exactly.
true loss here.
And so I think that's what people don't realize is like, I've said it a couple times this weekend, but like the trickle down effect of SESTA and FOSTA of like, all right, it's easy to say that it's hurting consensual sex workers, but at like a very everyday level for people who are not in the sex work industry, Facebook now is censoring what you can say, even just about sex. So
Or
like,
in Messenger.
and so like all of these data collecting websites and social media platforms that we're using are tracking what we're saying, and so it's affecting how we can post and keep like actually marketing ourselves, even just as people and like what we can put out there. So for us, one of the things that we were concerned about as an organization that puts on an event each year is, can we still continue to use Eventbrite to host our registration? Can we still...
Or we're gonna have to like change the language in our description, take all the sex words
Exactly.
out.
And so while we are not specifically a sex work organization, sex workers are very much a part of the community that we serve, along with sex educators and sex therapists and people who work very closely or adjacently to this and talk about sex on their websites. How is this going to affect them moving forward? You know, it's, you know, a lot of people were like, if you're taking porn off of Tumblr, then why does it continue to exist? And, you know, that's a lot of people's kind of like gateway into watching porn. Like you were like a tween on Tumblr and you were like, oh, I'm sad. And I'm going to like, oh my God, what's this? Like a piece of porn. I'm going to watch this. And now that doesn't exist, it's like that has affected so many more people. And that came around right at the same time as Facebook announced its new, I think they call it community standards, right? Yeah. So,
Community standards that were not decided by the community.
no, exactly. And you know, I think Twitter is kind of one of like the last places, like major social media platforms, that's still pretty good about allowing, you know, even showing
Really
nipples,
anything.
like really anything. Twitter's
Anything.
been pretty good. And what we're also
Nipples
seeing,
or hate speech, like Twitter really is letting you.
so I think that's what's super fucked up right now is, I'm allowed to swear on this, right? Yeah, I'm assuming. What's super fucked up is like,
if
a lot
everyone,
of
she
these-
laughed because I made such a face, such a condescending face of like, it's man whore podcast.
is a lot of these sites are cracking down on sex work and sex related talk and conversation, and yet white nationalism and racism are running rampant.
You see that meme like the day after the Tumblr ban, like porn down, but this is still chill. It was like,
Exactly.
you know, Ku Klux Klan stuff.
Exactly. So I think it's just like, you know, what is more harmful to people? Like if you are really trying to be make your site safer, what is actually perpetuating more violence?
YouTube also is having some issues like with the with the types of content that can be monetized. Like it is coming. Like I had so this podcast technically releases on YouTube. They took down like an episode of mine from a few months ago with Rosa Escandon, hashtag Rosa is hot, everybody. And the title was something like the debate between like the bisexual versus pansexual debate. That got taken down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? Like it said violate community standards. I appealed it. And they were like, no, it does. And I'm like, excuse me?
Did
And
they
it-
give you any more information
No.
besides it violates it?
No. The cover image is Rosa's like headshot for comedy because she's a comedian. She's a queer woman, like talking about the things. There's no like hate speech involved in it. it's just like it's slowly happening, people. Like imagine we start losing sex ed videos on YouTube. Imagine we lose sex podcasts like this one or Dan Savage or Emily Morse on iTunes or Spotify or wherever. It really is trickling down, and it really is scary. Like I'm genuinely worried, and I still genuinely please insist everyone go to manwhorepod.com, sign for the mailing list. I'm not trying to be smarmy. I like just you never know. Like I can keep doing the show without iTunes technically.
Yeah.
I can get it to you guys. But you never know if they're just going to take me off. And that scares the fucking shit out of me because this is like, this is my livelihood.
And I think, we are organizing around focusing on sex workers. And that is sometimes hard for the general public.
Because they're like, well, I'm
swallow.
not a sex worker, so
Exactly.
it doesn't matter.
They're like, it doesn't affect me. But SESTA and FOSTA is so broad that it does affect you. And so like, if you don't care about sex workers getting pushed offline and back onto the streets, okay, you have poor moral standards, but you're going to care about like what you can say on Facebook or on Tumblr. If that's what gets you involved in this movement, so be it. But you should know that it has literally started to affect people's lives and their survival. And so it's something that is affecting everyone at every level.
Like I wish people would care about it because like it's just going to mean more dead hookers, but people don't care about those.
No.
And that breaks my heart.
People only care about it when they see it on Law and Order, like, and even then they don't.
Yeah, like I really wish that was enough because it really should be enough. I really wish it didn't have to take like Tumblr porn. But like we have to accept that as how you got on board.
Yeah.
I just really wish like that
It's like, if that's what gets you in the room, I'll take it. But like, know that people are dying. So right now we're in the appeals process. And so we're going to see, just stay tuned with what's happening with it. But what we're doing now, is Woodhull has partnered with Swap USA, which is the sex work outreach project, to be our sponsor or our main partner in our Sexual Freedom Summit this August. So we have a whole track dedicated to sex work. And we also are going to have a full day sex work institute hosted by Swap USA. So we, while we ourselves are not a sex worker organization, we know that partnering with Swap is going to be a mutually beneficial partnership. Because they have the reach and we have a lot of like the coalition building. And so us working together is just, I mean, it makes sense, especially with the lawsuit going on.
That's awesome. How'd you even come to be working at Woodhull?
Yeah.
This is your first job out of college, right?
Yeah. Like
You're like, I want to work with the sex piece.
So I had been working, so I would like work a bunch of different jobs. I'd been working at a health and education based sex shop, and a lot of the people who work there
DC based, right?
Yeah, Northern Virginia. We say DC. People can take the 10-minute.
I mean, you want to give them a shout out?
Yeah, I mean, Lotus Blooms. I love them.
Okay. You got DC
absolutely
people.
Incredible. Yeah, they're absolutely amazing. So I was working with them and a couple people who work at Lotus Blooms. Have been heavily involved as volunteers for the summit since it's just right down the road from us every summer. So I needed to do an internship for my senior year of college. And I was like, hey, Woodhull has an open application for a social media intern. Sure.
Yeah, but
I'll
how do
apply.
you even find that?
Which one? The
Woodhull,
sex
like
shop?
the Woodhull
Woodhull?
internship. Like what? Like what made you like as a college student be like, I want to be working in this like sex world?
Yeah.
Like what makes you go to work at a sex toy shop?
God,
What
then
makes
we
you
have to like go way back.
Sure, let's
Yeah,
go
we'll
way back. We got
definitely.
time.
Sure. So I have been very fortunate. So like I'm Hansi. I'm a very sex positive person. I think that's part of just like who I have been and who I've grown into being. And so it kind of just made sense. But a lot of that starts with I'm one of the few people who was lucky enough to have parents who were really open about talking about sex. And so, I remember being, I don't know, like maybe third or fourth grade, my mom took me to Barnes and Noble, told me to sit in a corner. She came back with like 3 different options of sex ed books. And she was like, choose one. And I was like, okay. So I chose one called It's Perfectly Normal.
What made you choose that one?
I like the drawings in it. And then like still to this day, it's one of my favorite sex ed books. Like it's for like an age appropriate sex ed book. It's really, really great. And they've updated it year to year. It had queer people in it. And so let's see, I'm 23 now. It was like, I was probably like 8 or 9. So like if back in like, I don't even know what year that was. Like if back then, like you showed queer people and you showed people with disabilities and like interracial couples in a cartoon sex ed book for kids, that's like still unheard of.
Yeah.
Like
That's so hard to find.
Yeah, it's so hard to find. So I went home. My mom said, read the book, read it to cover, and then when you're done, ask me any questions that you have. Like she really empowered me to like do that research and approach it on my own.
What do your parents do?
My dad works in e-learning and my mom is like a jack of all trades, but she is like a costumer. She does a lot of like costumes for plays and stuff.
In the arts.
Yeah, both of them.
And then just this is just for context
Yeah,
as
sure.
you tell this. And then where were you raised?
I was born in California, raised in Massachusetts.
Okay, continue.
So, you know, like she was really open with me of like, do this research on your own, but then also like ask me any questions that you have.
How dare you tell a 9-year-old go do this sex research on their own though? It's like don't do that. Like you're not in high school.
Well, not like don't like she wasn't like go on the internet and find this stuff. She was like read this book.
Okay.
She was like I've skimmed through it. That's why like she came back with the 3 options of like things she had vetted, and then was like read one of these. And yeah, I think it's so that really like just kind of shaped of like how I was open enough to talk about sex with mainly my mom. My dad like still gets a little uncomfortable, and as do I with him. I think that's just like a normal thing. Okay. But then that translated into like me being very like open about talking about that kind of stuff with my friends. So as I was growing up, I was raised Unitarian Universalist, which is a very liberal and open religion that also has a middle school sex ed, like very comprehensive sex ed program called Our Whole Lives, which is like when people are like, oh, I had really bad religious sex ed. I'm like, oh, I had like really good religious sex ed.
What did your sex ed look like?
So it's just, they really teach like, it's not just like risk prevention, you know, it's not just like how to not get pregnant, how to not get STIs. It's more of like, this is what outer course is. And like, that's not even something that I talk about.
What?
Yes. So outer course is like,
You got outer course.
Yeah.
In the mid-aughts, mid to late aughts.
Yeah. Like
in this country, it was this country, right?
But
you weren't like taking the class in France. You were here.
Like run by a religious organization. Yeah, Our Whole Lives is really cool. And
that's better than your like a non-religious institution.
Exactly. And so I think like it's kind of to the standards of like what the Dutch standard of sex education is. So OWL not only has the middle school program, but it also has things starting as early as kindergarten. So it's really about like that age specific, age appropriate. So starting with the basics in kindergarten of like, if someone wants to hug you, you can say no. And they should respect you saying no. And you should respect someone else saying no. And my mom was also became a facilitator for that program once I was out of it. So that was really great of like her coming home and being like, I learned what outer course was today. And I was like, that's great, Mom. Like, I'm so excited for you. And so it was just like, this was just like part of my upbringing and a lot of like what shaped my view on the world. Like, I don't think I've questioned any of this. Like when it comes to human rights or, you know, someone saying like we should be equal or this is the kind of education we should have, I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense. It's never been like, oh, I had to like learn to be okay with sex work. I think I was just kind of always like, oh, yeah, no, if that's like how someone makes their money, sure. But like it's about the person. It's not about like the morality of what goes into it. Yeah. To be fair, I grew up in an Irish Catholic town. We are the most Irish town in America, according to the 2010 census. And so like, I wasn't surrounded by this really in like my town community, but I was in my familial community as well as who my friends were. We were a bunch of drama kids. So like, we were all like horny and didn't really know what to do with it.
Gosh,
right?
You're a drama kid writing that down.
So, you know, I think like I really struggled with like my friends would go to CCD. People would come back from that and be like, this is what we learned today. And I'd be like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, I know gay people and they're not going to go to hell. Like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, and so I think like, yeah, it was just always something that like my family fostered like an open, welcoming space for people. And like one of my best friends came out in high school, and his parents were very much of like you're doing this to spite us. Like you came out to spite us. And so he came and lived with my family like on the weekends, pretty much like didn't fully move in, but like we were the safe place for him. Which is, I think like speaks a lot to the character of my parents, but I'm really grateful that that was like the home life that I grew up in. Because that's not true for a lot of people in this world of like, I'm able to, you know, my parents are still shocked when I tell them like, oh, I work at a sex store, but they have come into the sex store now. Like they're like, okay, we're learning, like this is a learning process, and they're open to that. And so it's kind of just like set me off on this path of like, okay.
Did you ever feel like odd having the views on sex when you were in like middle school, high school that you did? Or were you just surrounded by other kids who had similar like upbringings?
I think like I can so distinctly remember like being at a sleepover with my friends and someone was like, guys, I watched porn yesterday. And then another friend was like, you watch porn? I also watch porn. And I was like, wait, you guys do too? Like, it's not just me. And so I think like I didn't know at that time, like there was a very distinct time when we were all like, oh, cool, we're not alone in trying to explore this stuff and trying to explore our bodies. And I remember like there was one friend of ours who hadn't watched porn. And so we like pulled up a video.
God. What did you pull? Can you remember what you pulled up vaguely?
Some woman was fucking herself with a cucumber. And then a guy walked in and she was like, are they going to eat the cucumber? Like our friend was like, are they going to eat the cucumber? And I was like, I don't know.
That's the big concern.
She's like very much the kind of person who would be concerned about that. But yeah, so it was kind of like we all had to like come out as like, oh, we're all little pervs too, basically. And then like one of our friends got a very serious boyfriend in high school. And so like she was the first person that we were all looking to of like, what is sex like? You know, like we were like, we all know we've watched porn, but like, what is it like to actually have sex? And we weren't like for horny drama kids. We were actually not that like sexually active with each other because I feel like that's very rare. Like drama kids.
Drama kids are fucking.
And at the time we were all very straight. Like we had a very straight drama group. And then, like, we all have subsequently come out in some kind of way.
Some people came out, like, on Facebook. You bought the shirt you wore today.
Yeah, exactly.
She wore the most lesbian shirt I really think I've seen all month, all year. You know, it's
you can buy it at Madewell. They do not sponsor this podcast. Just my closet. Yeah. So, like, then when I got to college, I knew I was going to study anthropology because that was very much to me like a social justice based field of study. I liked talking to people, and it's very heavy in interviewing and ethnography. And then like I knew what feminism was, but there was nothing that was ever like pushing me in the direction of like doing any organizing in that or like taking that into my studies until like my freshman year. They put on an annual production of the Vagina Monologues, and I went and saw it, which I understand.
I seriously feel like every high school got the Vagina Monologues except mine.
Well, this was college.
Oh.
Like this was like my freshman year of college, and I remember watching it, and I was like, I cried like the whole time, and I called my mom afterwards, and I was like, I'm gonna minor in women's studies, and she was like, do something practical like journalism. I was like,
oh, like that's practical.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, this is coming from the woman who like tells me about like the feminist convention she went to in the 70s. She's come around to it, and she's like, I can't believe I said that to you. How could I crush your dream like that? And I was like, it's okay. You were just like a concerned parent of a freshman in college. Yeah. So I ended up double majoring in anthropology and women and gender studies. And like those two were kept very separate from each other. There is a way that they can cross over, but I was doing like more like body positivity and sex positivity on the women and gender side. And then doing more like folk art and museum studies on the anthropology side. So like those two very different lives. And then I ended up studying abroad in Amsterdam, which was like, it's like this very cliche story of like, I went and studied abroad and it was in Amsterdam and I came back gay. Like, it's like, no,
Well,
but
you know,
yeah.
Amsterdam, they got that marijuana and the gay.
Yeah. It's like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah. But like, I think like the people who I was friends with in college up until that point, like on my campus, were all queer friendly, but no one had really come out yet. We're like a very liberal, but like politically liberal kind of stuffy campus in Washington, D.C. And so it's kind of
Where'd
like
you
American University.
Yeah, no, I almost went to American.
It's a good school. Like I enjoyed it. But then like going abroad, I was surrounded. It was a 24 person group of people, mainly AFAB people, and most of them queer, like a majority of them queer. And then
I'm just going to, I know what AFAB is, but I'm going to ask you to just tell someone what AFAB means, because I don't know that all my listeners yet know that term.
Definitely. So AFAB means assigned family at birth. That speaks more to, how medical providers assign gender at birth, which is a problematic practice. And since I studied abroad, a lot of people have subsequently come out as different, not different. Oh God, that's so awful.
Is that different?
Not as different.
It's
like,
accurate.
Like they now
It's
identify differently than they did at the time. Yeah. And so like I have not kept track of how 24 people now currently identify. Yeah. Let's just say
that's fine.
The majority of the people were AFAB on this trip, and a majority of them were queer. And now everyone who was straight at the time pretty much has now also come out as either bi or queer or
pan or whatever.
Exactly. Myself being one of those. And so while I was studying abroad, I was now in a place where I was surrounded by people who were openly queer. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I am now around people where I feel comfortable exploring this side of myself. I entered into like my first serious relationship while I was there, and like fell in love, and it was with a trans man. And then that made me also question. I was like, okay, so what does this mean for me? Because at that time I was like, I still identify as straight, he still identifies as straight, but this is a queer relationship. So there's like I had a lot of conflicting emotions about that, but I was like, okay, this is like, I am in love with this person. We'll deal with sexuality labels at another time. And then while I was there, we learned a lot about sex work and different models of sex work. So legalization, which is the model in the Netherlands, versus decriminalization, the Nordic model. And then I also had the opportunity to volunteer at a health and education-based sex shop while I was there, which was really cool. And that's kind of what like really got me in the door of there are places like this that exist. And so when I came back to the States, I was like, all right, I'm going to explore my sexuality. I'm going to get a part-time job, and I don't want to be a waitress. So I'm going to see if there are any sex shops that are hiring around me. And I found Lotus Blooms, and they were hiring. And I was like, cool, like this is great. Like this is a great part-time job. And then Lotus Blooms led me to Woodhull, and it kind of just made sense from there. Yeah.
Killer.
Yeah.
Killer. I wrote down so many things that I was like, oh, I want to keep track of things I want to refer back to. Trying to like I feel like first thing was like, okay, you mentioned like sex books and sex ed. And I think the book that I think single-handedly can fix the comprehensive sex ed problem in this country is a book called Sex by Heather Carina.
Oh, who's Scarlet Teen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That book is so comprehensive. It literally has everything. If you just, all you have to do is just teach that book, and you're done. You fixed it. Have you like skimmed through it at all?
I haven't. No,
Like, it has like the diagrams of like, here's all like different looking breasts. Hey, penises can look different. Like it's everything. They talk about sexual orientations, gender, all the bio stuff that like we kind of already learned. Like it really is comprehensive sex ed in a book.
I think like in terms of sex ed books that I think like everyone should read, I need to check that one out. Because I love Scarlet Teen. Scarlet Teen is a resource that we send people to all the time.
I tell people go CDC or Scarlet Teen. Those,
and I think why Scarlet Teen, though it's geared towards teens, I think that's perfect for anyone at any age because a lot of people got really shit sex education. And so you're learning sex ed at a teen level, basically. Like, here are the basics of it that you should have been taught. And I'm sorry that you weren't, but like, it's never too late to start. And that's something that working at my store has really taught me is like, we need to meet people where they're at. With this, it's not their fault that they didn't get good sex ed. It's a larger societal problem. And so we need to say like, all right, so you're laughing at that dildo because you're uncomfortable. So let's do a little bit of work right now. Like, let's have this conversation. And so while we're like peddling dildos, we also are doing a lot of like therapy for people. Though we're not therapists, we have therapists on staff, but it's not a therapy space because in our store, sometimes we are the first place that someone has ever been told it's okay to come and talk about sex openly. Because we, like when you go into an Apple store and you look at an iPhone, you ask the genius and you expect them to be knowledgeable about the products. The same goes for when you walk into a sex store. Like, hold your sex stores to a higher standard because there are we're few and far between across the country, but they exist. Go look at Joellen, Redhead Bedhead's superhero sex shops. She's got a list of everyone in the country. Find one near you, but like,
I'll personally recommend Babeland.
Yes, Babeland is amazing. A good history of feminist sex shops is
Buzz?
a book. What?
Buzz?
No, Buzz is really great. Vibrator Nation by Lynn Comella. Totally fangirled when she came and did her book tour at Lotus Blooms because she, kind of takes an ethnographic look and history at feminist sex shops. Totally wonderful.
Hallie Lieberman, who did Buzz, did the podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was a good episode.
Both two really good books if you want to like geek out about this stuff. But if you're looking for good resources to kind of just like start with now. So Heather Krinna's book, Sex is a good place to start. Also, Emily Nagoski's Come As You Are. That book, oh my God. Like, I cannot say enough about that book. And now she's working on a couple different ones right now. So she's working on like a burnout workbook for people. So like everyone who works in this industry is burnt out constantly because it takes a lot of emotional energy. And so it's a workbook that people can kind of like vent those feelings. But then she has a follow-up to Come As You Are, which is not only it's focused mainly on cis women's pleasure. She makes a really great note in that she wants it to be more inclusive. It's just that a lot of that research doesn't exist right now. So she's working on the research that she does have. But it's about, not just like physically what's going on when someone's aroused, but also what plays into the mental side of arousal and pleasure. So like if you are like feeling really flirty and someone tickles you, it's the greatest feeling. But if the next day you had the worst day at work and someone tickles you, they're losing a hand, and kind of like how those plan together. But then on top of all of that, how society's messages around sex and sexuality and pleasure all play into it. So it's really great for people, for vulva owners or anyone who is partnered with someone who has a vulva, or just if you want to know more about this, because a lot of it, just take any of the like anatomy out of it and focus on how does culture talk to us about our bodies and sex. And yeah, it's really, really good.
Man, inclusive language really fucks with people who don't speak that language. Cause like I interchange it, but I do throw in like stuff like I'll say like a vulva haver, or I like saying dick wielder. Like when I'm referring to people with penises, like dick wielder, I just have decided that's the way I prefer to have to say it. If I have to use like that type of be like, I'm purposefully trying to include everyone.
Yeah.
Dick wielder. Love that one.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like,
but
exactly. And so I think like something I've, working at the store that I work at and in the world that I work in, when we talk about gender, we should not always be focused on genitals. But when we're talking about how sex toys can work with a body, we have to talk about, all right, so this is going to work for a vulva in this way. And on someone who has a penis, it's going to work in this way. And so like we have to create I've coming from Massachusetts, my general welcoming to a group of people is you guys. And I've had to change that into you folks or hey folks, And so even just like tweaking that language.
won't let go of guys.
Oh, it's so hard.
I won't let go of it.
So hard.
But I'll try. I will, but my concession is when I spell folks, I spell it FOLX. And
Yes.
in me, like in my head, I don't like, to me, I feel like that's my, that's a little like subtle way of being like, hey, I see you. I don't know.
It's
Honestly, throw X at the end of like most words and it like feels like you're seeing other people.
You're subverting and like opening it up. Yeah. No, it's definitely yeah, like when I first started at the store, like someone would walk in and I'd be like, "Hey guys, like what can we help you find today?" And now, it's turned into, "Hi folks, how can we help? Is there anything we can help you find?" And even just like tweaking that language a little bit. It's mainly for groups of people where I don't know what people's gender identity is. Those are just like the little everyday things that we can start working into conversation.
What's something you have grown and changed on fundamentally? I don't mean like you learned the language of something where you were like, oh yeah, no, I totally agree with that. But now I know like a language to use. Like, I mean like fundamentally something, an issue, whatever, where you like had to grow and evolve on it.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So like, oh gosh. I think like one that I know that I really need to work on, and part of it is also like goes back to like my own sexual identity, is like the differences and the nuances and like how people label between bisexual, pansexual, queer, like who can use these words and whether or not I feel like I can use those words. Like so I'm in a relationship with a woman, a cis woman currently.
Super hot, bro.
my
Two chicks,
little
yeah.
soft butch. Like she identifies as a lesbian, and I still do not know how I identify. My track record has been mostly cis men, but I think like I always kind of knew that that's not who I wanted to be dating. And so I'm kind of thrown into this limbo of like,
Wait, so are you not into cis men, or do you realize you're not only into cis men?
a little bit of both. Like, so if you had asked me 2 years ago, like, do you think you could, like, if you and your partner ever broke up, do you think you would end up with a man or a woman? I probably would have said a man. And at this point, if you ask me now, I will say I'll probably end up with a woman. But I still don't know, like, I still find men attractive. The guys that I casually dated throughout college, I think were just kind of jerks.
Well, also,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
determine your basis on whether or not you want to be into men on college boys.
Well, no, okay, definitely. Well, and like, yes, also that. I don't know. I just like I'm now no longer in a lot of spaces that have a lot of cis men in them. And if
hate
they are,
speech. No.
and no, it is. It's just, like, luckily DC has had like a couple of lesbian bars open recently, and so like
That's a shock.
It is a
'Cause
shock.
Those things only close.
They only close because we like to go to bed at 9:00. Let this be known that we're recording this at like what, like 11?
Probably 11, yeah.
11, but my head is in Eastern time, so it's like
I'm really proud
1
of you.
a.m.
I'm proud of
so
you.
I should be in bed. I should have been in bed like 4 hours ago.
You are not old enough to have that point of view.
My spirit age is 65, so this is like yeah, so I think like like while I've dated men, I'm still attracted to men, mainly attracted to women at this point in my life. I still struggle with a lot of bi erasure, like my own erasing of my own most likely bi identity. But then like making comments about like, like if a woman is dating a man, I'm like, ugh, like straight people, and my girlfriend will be like, you don't know if she's bi or not, or like, she is bi, how can you just like talk about, like, throw that away? And I'm like, oh, you're right, I know, I need to like do the work. So my resolution for 2019 was to like stop erasing bi people. And it's not that I don't think bisexuality exists, because I know that it does, and I know that it's a completely valid sexuality. Like it's not, I think, like, it's none of those classic arguments. It's just that I'm like, I would prefer people to be like visibly queer.
I talked about this like a few months ago on an episode. These labels really are just starting to become bullshit. Not because like, oh, labels are bullshit, but because gender theory is starting to dismantle any of these. I identify as a straight cis man. My most recent ex is came out whatever in the course of the relationship, but is a gender queer person with a vulva. And it's like, what did that mean for me? Because am I still straight? Like, and not even about like, let's take the selfish part where it's like, am I still straight? It's like, if I choose to still identify as straight, does that erase their identity?
I wrote a paper about this in college.
Really?
And like,
I need help.
It was a theory paper. And so like, I kind of just like talked myself into a corner. And I was also trying to figure out like my own sexual identity through this paper of like,
please help, because I'm so confused
cis
about
partners
myself.
of trans people.
Yeah.
And you know, if your partner is already out before you start dating, and it's a new relationship dynamic, like queer relationship, or maybe it's now it's this line of like, this is a queer relationship, but if we're both passing, out in the world, it seems like a straight relationship, and that sometimes is safer, but that's also like maybe not what you want. Like that's not your politics. You want to be a queer radical couple.
They look like they totally pass for a woman, but they just look like a lesbian, and then I look how I fucking look.
And so people will just be like, oh, like he's dating someone with a pixie cut, right? And so
Exactly,
they're like, oh, like
exactly.
what an edgy New York thing to do,
Right.
And so like,
But it's like, like technically, I'm in a queer relationship. I
but
don't
does
identify
that
as
make you queer? And
Exactly.
I would argue no, because I don't, I think there's more. Yes, our sexuality is dependent on who it's related to who our partner is, but it does not change who you fundamentally are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And sexuality, of course, is fluid. Like, and I think that's what's so we need to remember in this conversation is like sexuality is fluid. So like if you are in a queer relationship and then you're like, oh wait, I really like, this is the space that I feel comfortable in, and like I want to seek out queer relationships. Don't be a chaser, but like if you feel more comfortable, like if that now starts to feel right and you want to explore that a little bit more, then you can do that. Or if you're like, okay, that actually didn't work and I feel more comfortable in a straight space, or if that fluctuates day to day, all completely valid.
And I've just been very confused because like because I feel more comfortable in queer spaces. I always have. I don't, some of the people in those queer spaces don't always feel comfortable by like this face being there, this face not being Billy's, but just like, I look so incredibly the enemy. Like right. So it's like, but I've always felt, because like, I feel like when I'm in a queer space, like, okay, everyone's welcome there, which means I'm welcome there because I have a heavy bullying, isolated background where like I had no friends for a good 9 years. I got, physically beat up like for all of high school. Like I just, so I like a space where I'm like, oh, cause in a queer, my sex party community, Hacienda in Brooklyn is very queer it's like very queer. And so like everyone's there, like all the body types, all the orientations, could be a little bit more racially diverse, but like a little bit out of their control. So like, but like it's very, everyone's there.
Yeah.
And my head goes, well, everyone's there. If everyone's there, then I must also be allowed there. And that made me feel so included, more so than any mainstream whatever space I've ever been in.
Yeah. Like I present as femme. I'm a cis woman. I dress very, very feminine. Besides that shirt I was wearing
you wore
today,
I will present to the court as exhibit gay.
But I think, like So it's something, but so like I hold a lot of privilege, but I am also someone with a larger body, and not, you know, like I fall in this kind of like,
Do you not like the F word?
like I feel fat, like I feel that, but I also know that like I'm a size 16, which falls in this weird like that's the
I'm
national
still
average.
a straight cis man. I will never understand your size numbers.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's okay. But like a size 16 is the national average. So like actually I have an average body type, but with media messaging growing up, like you are told that you are fat and you don't look like other people and you don't fit in. And so like I think when I started entering more queer spaces and I was like, oh my God, like people are so, you know, like people are so body positive here. I think what led me to the queer community was the body positive community. Because like you're like everyone is welcome, and you see all of like being at this conference right now and being at this expo, you see empowered people of all different shapes and sizes,
Especially for the cammers.
I'm like, you know, I was talking about it with Nina Hartley earlier, and we were kind of saying like 30 years ago, a lot of these cameras would not have been hired by mainstream producers.
Never.
And look at the kind of power that cameras have right now to say, no, I'm hot, I'm fucking sexy. I'm going to share that with the world. I think that's, and it puts that power in their hands, but then it also says to people like, you are deserving of sex and pleasure and to feel good in the body that you exist in.
I'll get that I'll accept that message one of these days.
Yeah. No. And it's like, it's a constant battle of like me fluctuating between like, yes, I have a right to be fat. I also need to go to the gym because I'm paying for it and I need to be healthy. And it's just like this, oh God. And like, and not that being fat means that you are unhealthy, because that is not what it is at all. But like, that's my inner monologue of like, oh, I should not like feel winded walking up that set of stairs right now.
Tying my shoes should not be a thing that has me short of breath.
You're like, oh, okay, let me like, queer spaces are where I feel very comfortable because I'm like, my body is accepted here. Like if I wear a crop top at a club, like I don't feel as conscious now as I did when I was not out to myself in like early college. And I'd go out and I'd be like, oh my God, like I have to like cover up but still kind of be sexy, but I don't know like how to like toe that line. But then something else I also kind of like have to grapple with right now is like being a femme presenting person when I go to queer spaces alone. So if I'm there with my partner, we're a butch femme couple, like very, very stereotypical. And so me in relation to her is viewed as queer in those spaces. Right. But when I enter on my own, I struggle with...
They're like, is she confused? Is she experimenting?
Like, I don't want to be that like, oh, is she straight and just like trying this out for a little bit? And like, you know, I think there's a lot of
You're going to have to get like a side shave or something.
Yeah. Well, I did an undercut. It's growing out right now. It's awful. You know, there is a lot of femme erasure both in the gay male community and in the gay female community. And so that's like why I bought a shirt like the one that I wore today. It's like, I'm going to signal to people that like I'm
Don't worry.
queer.
Signal red, loud, and queer. Is yeah.
You know,
But,
yeah.
remember when that one girl was like pretty much about to cry with Nina Hartley, just be like, oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
Did you remember seeing next to her there was this large woman, like the back of her laptop said "Let's get weird." She had like a weed hat on, armpit hair, like she was very clearly be like, I'm gonna be like I'm not gonna look like anyone else at this conference. I am big, I am different looking. I like a lot of these, like she had a lot of like weird piercing stuff like on her face.
Yeah.
And she gets paid by probably mostly dudes. Get naked.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo, like cammers really have like all, that's probably where the most body positivity is in porn, is this like camming world, because you'll find your people.
Oh, totally. And like you know, you also control how you are being seen.
Yeah. I used to cam in college. Granted, I had a different body than I have now, but like I was not, no one would look at me and be like, oh my God, that's the guy's like so fit and in shape, right? And man, sometimes I have to really remember that to be like, no, it's okay if I don't have abs.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like dudes still wanted to pay to see me naked.
I mean, like, I get affirmation from my partner and I'm like, yeah, but you love me. Like, it's not fair that you say that. But like, when I like get hit on in places, I'm like, okay, is it a creepy dude? But then like also some, like if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, oh, fuck off. But like if I'm feeling good about myself that day and someone cat calls me and like just whistles or is like, hey babe, I don't know.
You're like mad, but then like in your head, you're like, still got it.
Yeah, you're like, oh, thank you. Like I've got it. But it's still mostly attention from men, and I'm like, oh, when am I gonna get that attention from women? Because
women don't catcall. You're not gonna.
No, they're not catcalling me, but like, I'm like, when is someone gonna be into a femme? And like, like I just like want a really cute butch who's not my girlfriend to compliment me one of these days. So if you see me on the street, be that person. But just to be like seen visibly queer by the people who I want to be seen visibly queer by. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want the other queers to know that you're a queer
Yes.
when you're walking down.
And so I think like when I was first coming out, like very stereotypical story of like my girlfriend and I dating, of like how lesbian relationships start, of like she had Clark desert boots and we were sitting in class next to each other and I like started Googling like Clark desert boots and it was like, do I want to be her or do I want to be with her? And so I like started like adding butchier clothes to my like shopping carts online, never buying them, but just like adding them. And like that's not who I am. Like fundamentally, I am not a masculine of center person. I am very much a feminine person. I play around with more masculine looks because that's just fashion and that's fun. But it's like, it's okay. So maybe I want to be read as more visibly queer. Maybe I want to look like this person. Like, I felt like I had to go like very much on the like far end of the spectrum of like chop all your hair off and like live as a butch lesbian for a little while and then like femme it back up later on. But no, like you can exist. Anyone can exist in these queer identities the way that they look. And so it just kind of like took some time to like get there for me. And that was like, yeah.
That's wild. Yeah,
Can I pause to pee?
please.
Okay, cool. I got halfway through that and like down half the water.
I don't know if it's just like the way like I speak with you or if it is the pinch of whiskey I had.
There were 2 shots of whiskey in there.
I was trying to lie to my audience. No, see, I'm not good at it.
I poured
I'm
the
terrible
drinks.
at it.
I poured the drinks. There were 2 shots of whiskey in there.
But I don't know what it is about either like the whiskey or like talking with you that it just feels like that flies by.
What is your Myers-Briggs? Do you know what your personality type is?
No.
Okay, it's like a personality test and people are very divided on it. But I live by my Myers-Briggs type, which is an ENFP, which are notoriously known to be like the most outgoing people ever.
All I know is I broke the Kinsey. I failed the Kinsey test.
What do you mean you failed the Kinsey test?
mean,
You're
like,
like not on this. You're not on his scale.
I mean, I took it and it said I failed it. I took it years later. I still failed it. Yes.
So you just like didn't. What do you?
They said, and I'm almost quoting. Either I answered a question incorrectly, or I'm like a very unique person. I think it's just because like I know.
They were like, oh, you're like a -1.
And no,
Like you're that
no,
straight.
it said fail. And I found this out on a date. Like this woman, friend of the pod, Andrea Allen, like one of my dearest friends. On her second day, she like made she took us to the East River, like this little, made like a picnic. And then she's like, oh, we should take the Kinsey test. And like we did, like she did hers. And then she had me do it. And then she's like, it says you failed. Because I still think it's because like I am comfortable around other dicks. I also don't want the other dicks in me, but I'm also willing to say like that a man can be attractive.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's flawed about the Kinsey test. Like it was revolutionary for its time because it's like, yes, homosexuality in its very like scientific terms is normal. And like people just happen to fall on this scale of 0 to 6, right? And like we now know that people do not fit into neat little boxes.
I'm the only person I've met who has
Who's
failed
failed
this
it.
thing.
I don't remember what I got on it because it fluctuates. It honestly fluctuates. But I think like my favorite wording on the Kinsey test is like more than incidentally or incidentally homosexual. It's like, what? I'm sorry,
Like,
I just like stumbled into this this queer relationship, which honestly is pretty much what happened with like my first serious
It's
relationship.
kind of like you
I was
tripped and fell on a fist. Like what?
I was like, oh, like, okay, I'm in a relationship with this person and like this happens to be a queer relationship. So like, I guess I'm a little incidentally gay. And now I think I have no idea. I haven't taken it since I've started dating my partner. Cause like we are in a monogamous relationship. And so like, I'm mostly thinking within the confines of our relationship. But I'm like, yeah, dude's still attractive. But like now the answer to that question is like, I don't know if I would have sex with a penis right now. Definitely would have sex with a Vic-skin penis, but not a human penis.
See, like I think my thing is like, oh, like this guy is probably supposed to be a little gay and he just won't accept it. I think that's what the test wants me to admit. And I kind of just refuse to.
Like we were talking about John Mulaney this morning, right?
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
like one of my favorite bits that he has is like, he's like, I should probably be gay. Like in heaven, they were putting me together. And then God was like, you flipped the gay switch on that guy. And they're like, oh no, we did not. Well, this will be a very interesting
person.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great bit.
Like, it's, I mean, John Mulaney is like the fucking best. But yeah, so I think it's like, we have these assumptions about people and how they should be. And then like, I don't know if you've ever felt pressure because you feel that people view that about yourself of you're like, do I have to live up to that? Like, should
Toxic
I be
masculinity
like,
hurts
should
all of
I
us.
be more interested in penises than I am? Like, is that something you've ever thought?
I do a self check-in. I'm like, do I want a cock in my mouth? And then she's like, no.
That idea just sounds so awful to me these days. I'm like, oh, I used to like identify of like, I love giving blowjobs. And now I'm like,
That's only because
No.
you're dating a chick.
no,
Like,
no, it's not. No,
come
it's
on.
not. Like it literally is
I feel like
not.
if you were back in like the I'm also like hooking up with men on a like casual basis level, you might be like, maybe you won't, but I think that being with a woman for an extended period of time maybe makes you forget whether or not you like certain things because you just haven't been doing them.
What was I was watching something the other day and it was that show Mom, which I've never watched before, but on this episode they were like, I think God probably designed a penis and then was like, I'll fix it in the morning, and just like never fixed it in the morning. And I that's honestly like, vulvas also are not that beautiful. Like genitalia is weird.
Like it's weird we put them in our mouths or on our mouths.
Yeah. Who was like, yeah, that's what you want to put there. like tits make sense because as babies, that's our source of food. But like,
I also like this whole like the whole like trans women thing. I don't know. I had this guest on like several like a while. Not at this point. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but like a while ago, I had this one trans woman on who made me go like, oh fuck, she's like really really pretty. Now I gotta like think about this. Part of it being like I don't want to have to go like I just don't want to have to like sit and like have to journal. Like it's not about like a fear.
I journaled a lot through my coming out, so
it's just a matter of like, do I gotta think about this thing? Does this have to change something? I talked to one guest about like trying to like grasp onto straightness like for dear life type of thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the closest is like once in a blue moon, there is like a trans woman that gets me like, oh fuck you, purdy. Like, and I don't know what that is. I have not pursued those things. I feel like I'll figure it out when I get there.
It is confusing. Like, as someone who studied women and gender studies in school, like queer theory is the most confusing of all.
Because all of it cancels each other out.
I'm reading a really good graphic novel right now called Queer in Illustrated History. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, but of course you're reading it.
Yeah, it's so good. And I'm like, it's like the thing that I pick up when I'm like, oh, I'm having conflicted feelings about like what queerness is today. And so then I pick it back up and I'm like, all right, what's the new theory that I'm talking about right now? And what they really break down is like queer exists as an identity. It exists as an adjective. It exists as a verb. So to queer something, to be queer as an identity. Like it exists as so many different things. And so it really is contextual on how you use them. And that like queer theory, again, just like backs you into a corner. Like there is no neat answer to it because queerness is all about throwing off what we know as the norm. Like if we are going to queer something, if we're going to queer the idea of gender, if we're going to queer the idea of sexuality, yeah, you're just going to end up more confused than you began. And so I think like for me, like the best way that I've heard it explained was by Kate Bornstein, the famous trans activist. She says, you know, like if we look at queerness, it means that when an object or person is viewed straight on, you're only seeing one side of that person. So like if I'm looking at you, I'm only seeing one side of you. But if I were positioned at a different angle, I'd be seeing a completely different idea.
They're both
like
both sides are pretty straight, cis, and white and bearded.
But in the way of like you contain multitudes and you still continue to exist as those multiple things at the same time. It's based on the viewer of how they're viewing you. So you can exist as multiple identities at the same time. It just depends on how you're positioned, how someone else is positioned.
So, on all this gender stuff, like there's been this period of time, and I go through waves of just like even thinking about it. Most of it's like theoretical.
Yes.
But anytime the thought process leads to me being like, maybe then if I don't identify as like manhood, or if I'm thinking about teams, like I don't identify as like this guy team. Guys was going to be a shit at me all the time. Like I never fit in with them. Never felt like man. If I
like one of the guys,
but if I started using they them pronouns tomorrow, like queer people would be mad. You know what I mean? Like unless I get a cool haircut or change my wardrobe, people would be pissed if I use they them pronouns.
The presentation thing is a whole other
but you
issue.
know I'm
Yeah.
right. You know the queer world will look and be like, oh, that straight cis guy is now using they them pronouns. Is he mocking us or X, Y, and Z? Or hey, he just gets to keep looking like that and use them. And I'm like, your theory says I can identify as I want and see why your logic doesn't fucking make any sense. But it's very real for me because anytime I read any books that I'm gonna flip it. Anytime I read any books that has like any sort of like research, science, whatever, and they're talking about like men and how we're supposed to operate, and you know, like how we will operate in terms of like just like horniness or sexuality. Like anytime they're describing female sexuality, I almost always identify with what they're describing. When they're just like, so right now, like the book I'm reading is what do women want? It's by Daniel Bergner.
Yeah.
So he's talking a lot about like female sexuality in this. This is research done not by him, but by female researchers on human sexuality, specifically female sexuality. Almost all the stuff they're talking about, I identify with what they describe as female sexuality almost exclusively. With like stuff about emotions, about X, Y, and Z, and I don't know what to do with that information. Because I don't want to transition. I don't feel like I like having this cock thing, kind of. I don't need to I don't feel like I need to change my appearance other than I'd like to lose some weight. But like, I do not identify with this manhood thing. And I don't know what to do. Because again, I know that if I want to try on the queer titles, Queerland's not going to accept me. Unless I change my presentation. Which I don't want to do. That seems like a lot of work. I hate shopping. And so I feel like I'm in a space where like I don't know what to do. So I do round up to this like man thing. I don't think that's right. But that's the closest I got.
Well,
right now.
I think part of what we're doing in expanding ideas of gender and ideas of sexuality, you know, it doesn't always necessarily mean that like that has to be within a queer realm. What it does is it expands categories for all people. And so that you're able to fluctuate between super hyper machismo to like more in touch with your more feminine masculinity. Right. And like it's
But at that
going-
point, mixing feminine with masculine, like describing masculinity as a feminine masculinity, now it just doesn't seem like any of this language is making sense.
I mean, like, what sucks about like social constructs is that like they have been passed down so many times that the inherent characteristics have started to stick in categories. And so as we're like trying to move about and trying to queer what it means to have this like how we use the language, what the language means, what it signifies, it, like we start to be like, yeah, but does that then affirm that like femininity is this and that masculinity is this? And only is it when we like put masculinity on a female body or put like femininity on a male body, not necessarily trans bodies, but like someone who, you know, like a high powered female CEO who's taking on masculine characteristics, but still wears a skirt and high heels every day. You know, that's when we start to get like, okay, so what do these categories inherently mean? It's something that theorists are still, it's confusing.
Sure.
And we're like, okay, it's like a chicken or the egg kind of situation of like, did these categories exist? And like, or did we create the categories? Oh shit, like what happened? We're like, are we just further ingraining that this is what this means, or are we actually trying to change it? It's all very just like muddled in all of like when you start to read queer theorists, you're just like, oh shit, I should have just stayed where I was. Like, I should have just left it alone.
I wish I just didn't know better, and I just wish I wish I didn't know any of this shit, so I didn't have to like question it.
I something that I do think is really interesting is as more people start to use hormone replacement therapy, so use testosterone, hormone blockers, or estrogen, that is starting to kind of show us how hormones and biology affect this as well. So like the nurture versus nature, society versus what's inherent, changes things. Like, for instance, like, and like I have not done research into this just from like a purely like, oh, I've noticed this when my partner, my past partner,
The trans dude?
yeah.
Okay.
So, he had not started to medically transition until we were in a relationship. So I was with him when he started taking testosterone.
But you started when he like presented like probably
Like he
lesbian type.
No, like he was out as trans. He was like,
Okay.
I always used a masculine name for him,
Oh,
masculine
okay,
pronouns.
okay.
But he wasn't on hormones yet.
Gotcha.
He started hormones while we were dating, and that like testosterone is a fucking powerful hormone. And like going from this part, like there were a lot of factors playing into like why our relationship didn't work out. But one of them was like the way that he experienced emotions changed. And that's been something that like in doing the research of like being a partner to a trans man who's on testosterone, like is something I've seen time and time again of like, it is physically harder to cry. It's physically harder to cry when you're on testosterone.
Really?
Yes.
Because I cry all the time.
And that's that maybe before like, but from like his basis of like how much he cried before he was on hormones to like him feeling sad, and like tears were not the first thing to well up, right? And like I remember him calling me and being like, I am now experiencing anger. Like that is not like pure
Instead of sadness?
anger in a way that he hadn't experienced anger before ever. Like 21 years of life, like had not experienced anger in a certain way, and was like, okay, so now I've been on T for 3 months. Like I'm experiencing anger in this very specific, like that was the emotion that I jumped to as opposed to like anxiety or something else. Right. Or fear, like the response to fear was anger, not like questioning something. And so I think like as there's more research done, on the way that hormones play into like trans identities, but then also like sexuality and pleasure, because there's a lot of research that still needs to be done about like how, you know, like if someone gets bottom surgery, how does that change the nerves and how like someone can experience pleasure? I think that's going to be a really interesting like addition to this conversation. I don't know if it's going to give us any answers, but I think it's going to give us another perspective of like, okay, so this is like how our bodies work and how our hormones work. How do we grapple with that? Yeah.
I think I'm nervous having to feel like an other again. I got out of feeling like another. I don't want to go back into that. That doesn't sound like fun.
I think it's also, you know, like we talk on a very macro level about a lot of this, and then like it's then also about finding like the micro spaces of where like, all right, so maybe if you were to enter a queer club in DC, you'd be received differently than you would be in the community that you have carved out for yourself in New York.
I don't even mean like if I walk in. I'm not talking about like going into a bar. I go into a gay bar, like it's fine. It's if I want to identify differently. That's where I feel like the pushback would be. If I like came out and be like, hey everyone, I just want to let you know, like I'm ditching this whole like guy thing. I'd like to use they them pronouns. Also like here's my coming out photo, and it was just like a standard photo of me. Like nothing changed looking wise. That's not going to fly. And I just don't want to have to like, I don't have to like not fit in again. Because I've been not fitting in most of my life. And I don't want to like try to figure that out all over again. With when it, by the end of the day, like pretty much is mostly just semantics. But I do know that whenever someone tries to put me in the camp of men, that never feels right.
Language is so powerful. Like this is like what it comes down to, I think, is like language is how we communicate with one another. Language is how we signify to someone else in a certain way. You know, like presentation, yes, but also like as soon as you say like I'm queer or I'm straight, like the way that we introduce ourselves to someone automatically puts us into a box. And it's hard when we don't have the language for certain things. So we're just trying to work with the language that we have, but that still doesn't fit. Like even just like taking pronouns of like, it's easier. I think like the reason why they, them singular pronouns have taken off more than possibly like zir, those pronouns is because in a lot of cases, it's easier to change the definition of an existing word in your language than it is to introduce a completely new word. It's when it has such a grounding in like who we are as people. So like selfie can be added to the dictionary, no problem, because it's just become part of vernacular. It doesn't really have anything to do with people's like being. But when it comes down to like, okay, how are you going to identify? How do you identify? If you introduce a completely new word to someone, they're like, well, I have no basis for what this means. Like, give me all of the examples and the history and the, you know, and you're just like, well, I pulled it out of nowhere because I didn't have that word before. But language is constantly changing and evolving. I don't really know where I'm going with this. It's just like language has so much to do with how we navigate the world.
I'd rather not have to change my language. I just would rather society strip its expectations of me, both for the privilege stuff and the negative expectations of, oh, that's a guy who looks like the guy who raped me in college. Because like I have the face of the guy at that frat party. Like I know what I look like, and I really wish like all expectations, period, positive and negative, were stripped. I just want to be judged based on who I am. And I know there's a lot of people in marginalized communities who want the exact same thing. And I agree. And I say the same. It's like, I don't want you to be judged based on being black or being queer or being a woman. I want you to be based on being, you, or I want you to be based on being you or you. And so like when I say that I don't want like these like man expectations on me, and they're like, privilege. I'll be like, no, because like I also feel the same for everybody else too.
Yeah.
And I really don't like assumptions. I don't like that. I just want to be only held accountable for what I did, what I said. I want you to only be held accountable for what you did and what you said, and etc.
Yeah.
But it's not the most popular of opinions because it's a lot easier to just be like mad.
Again, it's messy and it's emotional, and it's, you know, dealing with anything, whether it's, you know, the queer movement or racial justice, or it's honoring the past and knowing what happened in the past, but also taking those lessons and moving forward. And when that comes at odds with who you currently are, it just gets messy again.
Yeah.
Like it all just, the world is a messy place. I don't know how to, you know, like I'm working to try to fix it on like a very, like with my work at the store, like on a very small level. And then like with Woodhull, we're trying to change at least something more in society, because it happens on every single level.
Yeah.
But there's no easy answer to this, because humans aren't easy. They're just not.
Is there anything about you and your identity you're still unsure of?
Still trying to find like the label that fits, but then I'm like, do I even want a label? You know, I think that
It's like, why can't you just be like Hansi, and why can't I just be Billy? And then like
Yeah.
if you have questions, just ask them specific to me.
Exactly.
It's like, how do you identify? I identify as Billy. Do you want to know what I put in my mouth? Just ask me like what genitals I like in my face.
I love Chipotle and I'm dating woman. Like that's those are the things that I put in my mouth.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Let's just do it like that. That seems easier. I asked this before we got started, and we've talked quite a bit.
Very far from where we began.
Sure, but again, like I feel like
Yeah.
we've had this exact same conversation if there was no microphones.
Yeah, I agree.
Before we get going, do you have any questions for me?
I have like a lot of questions for you.
Oh my gosh, really?
But like I'm just like, is this the time to ask those questions? I think is like,
I'm welcome to receive them. It's up to you if you would like to ask them.
why do you think you're so bad at dating?
I don't
Like,
think.
why do you think you set out on this? Like, what have you learned? What prompted you? And like, what do you think it changes moving forward?
What prompted me? I'll give the condensed version of
Sure,
just.
yeah.
I didn't have a girlfriend from 19 to 24. Anytime I wanted to get more serious with someone, they would always tell me they wanted. It was always the woman who said she wanted to keep it casual. And so every time I wanted to get more serious, it's like, oh, I don't know, but like, let's just do this fun thing. Now, normally when you do that, things end, but they were like, no, you're still coming over because you're going to come over and do that thing I like that you do with your tongue. I'm like, all right, but I wanted the lovey-dovey stuff. And they're like, just keep your emotional mouth shut. And I think that's why I have a lot of female audience that identifies with me, because that's typically seen as like a quote unquote chick problem. Is like, I want something more emotional. And the guy's like, I just want a bone. And they're like, okay, but I'm sad. And it's like, that was me. Again, why I do not identify with this fucking man group. Why do I think I'm bad at dating? I don't actually think I'm as bad at dating now as I was maybe when I was younger. Actually, I think I think one of the biggest things that made me bad at dating was that I allowed myself to feel irresponsibly, in the sense of like I would let the initial feelings you get on a good first date, I would round that up higher than it should have. So I would allow myself to think I'm in love or falling in love or something like that sooner than I actually was. That in turn kind of freaks some women out.
So you're sure you're not a lesbian?
No, I am a lesbian. I have definitely male lesbian. Eddie Izzard had it right. Male lesbian. That's
Like
right.
the guy from the L Word in like the first season who dated Alice. Yeah.
I did not watch the L Word, so I'm not the best
Should.
lesbian.
Yeah,
but if I
no,
am a
like-
lesbian, maybe I need to watch it.
As problematic as it is, I think every lesbian has watched that in her coming
Then
out.
maybe I'm gonna need to. No, but like honestly, I really do like. Apparently, ever since I was a kid, I've had more feminine energy. So it's like, I'll put it this
but
way: when you first saw me, there must have been at least a few assumptions in your head before we spoke.
Oh, I definitely looked you up on Facebook first.
Okay.
And I was like, he has a podcast called the Man Whore Podcast. At least from like the promo photos that I was looking at, I was like, this seems to be like mostly women on the like as guests. I don't know what that signified to me, but I was like, okay, like there's gonna be like a dude who I haven't met sleeping on the couch next to me. And like,
yeah, that was by the way a very liberal, risky, but like I was very grateful for a decision.
when I saw that these doors in this hotel room could slide shut, I was like, okay, that'll be like a good fail safe.
Really? That's hardly a barrier.
Yes.
Like, that made you feel safe? Your sense of safety, it needs to be re-examined.
I also felt safe with Alex because I feel like Alex will not put up with any kind of shit.
Really? Because she slept through this entire talk.
If I went in there and yelled loud, okay. You know, but I do not expect that in this situation.
I can.
I think it's human nature to assume things about people based on how they look because I think it's an animal instinct that we have of like we saw a predator and therefore our fight or flight takes into effect. But because of human empathy, which I really think is what sets humans apart from other animals, is the fact that we feel empathy, is that we're like, okay, so yeah, this strange guy walks into my hotel room, looks like the shitty dudes I went to college with, but I'll talk to him for a couple minutes, and depending on how he does in those couple minutes, I'll make my decision, right? It's not like full empathy, but it's willing to give people a little bit more of a chance than just like, I'm either gonna like, as an animal, like kill you or run away, right? Another question I get, like, this is now coming to my head, is like, you were waiting for me to use the pronoun she when I was referring to my partner when we first met. What about
which one?
Last night. So
no, but which partner are we talking about? Your current girlfriend?
My current partner, yeah. So like
Oh yeah, because you gave enough. I don't remember what the clues were, but like I just remember being like, I'm gonna wait for a she because like I know, and I'm allowed to know.
Because I was wearing my pajamas, and pajamas are like,
it didn't have to do with
the most gender neutral, sexuality neutral.
You look very asexual right now. No, it had nothing to do with what you look like. It had to do with just the things you were saying.
Oh, okay, cool.
Whatever.
And
however,
totally guessed one of my girlfriend's outfits, and I was like, "What the fuck? You've never even until right now. You still also have not seen a picture of her."
No, I still haven't. But
yeah.
I do know now she's thinner than you.
Yes,
but that's only through this conversation we just had.
Yeah, and I added you on Facebook, and the fact that you didn't look on Facebook,
I haven't looked.
Yeah,
I haven't looked.
That's why I asked you what your background was in yesterday, because I was like, is he a sociologist or like an anthropologist? Like it's very similar to like
just an
science,
asshole.
Yeah.
That's my background. Being an asshole on a microphone is my background for the last decade.
And just because someone has a background in something doesn't mean that they actually use it, or they can't be just something that you've learned through life.
Is there anything about me that confuses you?
That confuses me. I think maybe it's not so much like a confusion standpoint as more of it is that I'm just like continually surprised by, because I think it's something that like a lot of the people I come in contact with are not this way, is that you are incredibly self-aware. Like Alex and I mentioned that to you earlier. Like you will make the comment before we do, or before we think it, and then we're like, oh yeah, that is like probably something I would have thought.
That's like the bullied kids defense mechanism.
And you know the meme that's going around that's like, some of you haven't this, and it's apparent. Like I think when you hear people talk in the way that you do, it's like, oh, there is something that made someone, like we put ourselves down first before someone else is able to put us down. But I'm also not going to assume that you have trauma to share, and I'm not going to ask you to share that trauma, right? Like you've openly shared that with me in this exchange. But it's not something that I was like, so tell me about being bullied. Like, how was that for you? Right? Like, why are you so, like, are you in therapy? You know, like, have you talked yourself into therapy kind of thing? Like, maybe, I guess that's like a personal question. Maybe I will come out and ask that question, is like, has this podcast replaced a therapy that you needed? or wanted to seek out, and like you became your own therapist by actually talking about these things?
I think that's giving me way too much credit. I am in therapy now as of June. I don't ever think this replaced therapy. I think this replaced a need for attention.
Okay, actually, I will say something like that surprised me about you. Last night when I asked you how the podcast has affected your dating life, I was surprised that your answer was more positive than negative. And you split dating life and sex life. But I think like I'm all set. Offering whiskey. I think what I was expecting to hear, because I know how I would react if I was like, you know, if you and I met completely outside of this and at a bar, right? And you were like, oh, hey, like, can I get your number type thing?
Really, you're giving me too much credit. Like I would approach any woman at a bar. I am way too
if
chicken
people
shit.
actually still knew how to flirt. But you know, like if you approach me and then it comes out that you have a podcast about your relationships and a very honest podcast, I would say no. I would say no to having sex with you. I would say no to dating you. And so when you said like, but then I wasn't thinking about it from the aspect of like, you are open and honest about these things. So when people approach you, they already kind of know what they're getting, right? Or they at least have some idea of who you are and who they're approaching.
They're aware, even if they don't listen to the show up top, because sometimes women will be like, I'll get to a date and they'll be like, so I listened to your podcast. I'm like, oh gosh, what do I have to explain? Like, what do I have to like apologize for? Like, did you listen to the thing about the orgy or did you what?
Oh, it's so interesting. And then you followed that up last night with saying like it's affected your breakup life more so than maybe like current dating life.
I mean, my breakup with Paige got affected. The breakup with her was insane because of the podcast, because she, for at least a period of time, was still listening. And so if I mentioned it because I was sad, or I mentioned it because it's 2 years of my life, I'm not going to like erase it.
Yeah.
But it's there. And so it would be a thing that would irk her. She knew who she was dating. And I wasn't going to like hide a thing I was feeling legitimate pain about, because that's the longest, most important relationship in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for like the third time the other night. And it like made me think about breakups and how we deal with breakups, and like, what is it to know how the other person is processing, and how does that affect your own processing of the relationship ending? And like, that's a lot of like, that's like a whole nother thing to get into. But I think like for someone like you who lives a very public, open life like this is like an open diary pretty much to your life, and you've shared that with people and welcome them to listen to it. It's super vulnerable. It's so vulnerable. And like, that's perhaps like more intimate than physical sex.
It's the thing that bugs me the most about my critics. Not that they're my critics. It's that they don't fail publicly. And I am willing to fuck up publicly. Granted, there's a good chunk of times when like I fuck up publicly that I don't realize I'm fucking up. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't go back and like delete the thing. I don't go delete my old tweets. Like, I delete tweets that I don't think the next day were funny, or maybe they got 0 likes, 0 comments, 0 retweets. And maybe like, okay, after like several hundred impressions, if you have a 000, maybe it's just not good. But like, I don't go search, like, if I am so fortunate enough that I get a show, I really would rather not scrub like my Twitter, because I would rather show growth than pretend to show perfection, because perfection's not real, doesn't exist. There are no heroes. After Reed Mahako fell, it was like, okay, there are no heroes. And I'd rather be an example of change and growth than try to hide my past imperfections. For what 2015 was for me, which is when that whole like incident was, That is, at this point, it's now an embarrassing part of my history. I can't hide it. I can't delete it because even if the tweets are gone, screenshots live forever. Mm-hmm. And I no longer shy away from it. I go like, that was a part of my life I'm embarrassed by. And here's how I've grown from it. And have I been perfect since then? Fuck no. But I'm always trying to be better. Mm-hmm. And that's really all humans can be because we're imperfect.
Yeah. Speaking as Hansi and not as Woodhull, like most of this conversation has been is me speaking as myself. No one in this world is perfect. Like you said, there are no heroes, but also like we have all fucked up. It's a messy, messy world we live in, and like all goes back to like beyond queer theory of like down from like personal relationships to the sex ed world and to like the sexual freedom movement and any of this. It's messy, but that's because we're human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are human. Hansi, I want to say thank you for coming on. Where can people find you or the Woodhull organization?
Definitely. Yeah, back to where we started. So Woodhull is still in this lawsuit. We are a small nonprofit.
Do y'all give out grants or you get grants? I forget.
We get grants. We're in the process of trying to. We really rely on the individual donors. That's where the biggest amount of our budget comes from. But each year we host the Sexual Freedom Summit, so that's coming up. But if you wanted to follow Woodhull, we are Woodhull SFA on Twitter and on Facebook, and then on Instagram as well. WoodhullFoundation.org for our general foundation work, and then sexualfreedomsummit.org as our summit specific website. And please reach out to me if you have any questions at all. And then I'm going to plug Lotus Blooms as well, because if you are in the DMV area and you're looking for a great health and education based sex shops, we are at Lotus_Blooms on Twitter, Lotus.Blooms on Instagram. We also hold workshops. And then if you want to find me, I'm Hansies, HANCIES_fancies, FANCIES, on Twitter. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Shoot me an email. Shoot me an email saying, Billy, I don't feel sorry for you. Or, shoot me an email with some compliments. Or, hey, send me your titties. Some of y'all have been doing that recently again, and I'm a fan. Shoot me an email at manwhorepod@gmail.com with any of your thoughts or questions. But I would love to know what you thought about this week's show. You can hit me up on Twitter at @TheBillyProcida, or you can leave a comment on the Man Whore Podcast Facebook page. I would love to meet you, maybe you and your partner, maybe you and your friends, at ManWhoreCon in New York City this August. Yeah. Go get your weekend pass today and start making travel plans tomorrow. Get your weekend pass right now at manwhorepod.com/weekend. You want to connect with some of those people you're going to meet at ManWhoreCon? Well, I suggest you become a member of our fan whore community on Patreon, because a decent percentage of the people who attend ManWhoreCon are patrons themselves. So, hey, throw down a couple bucks. Am I worth a cup of coffee? I think so. Go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast, become a member today, or hey, just enjoy that free bonus ep with Nina Hartley. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. I want to say congratulations to Koa, who won our Mambe Blankets giveaway. Yeah, he got a nice comfy one. I don't know if his girl squirts or not. Maybe his dog's got a piss problem. Look, the Mambe blanket is very multi-purposeful. I know you didn't win one, but if you do want to get a awesome waterproof blanket that's great for the outdoors, for pets, or for women who gush like whatever gushes in nature, a geyser, Yellowstone, I don't know. head on over to MombayBlankets.com and you can get 15% off with promo code MANWHORE. Again, that's Mombay Blankets, MAMBE Blankets.com, promo code MANWHORE. Next week, we've got on, I don't even know if you're allowed to say crossover performer anymore, but we've got on adult entertainer Lance Hart. You know what I mean. Stay slutty.